How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Moka? Part 1. Huge shout out to Titus 123 for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. On a bus, one could see a blonde teenager sitting in one of the back seats dozing in and out of consciousness. His hair was shaggy, blonde, and 3 lines could be seen on each side of his face. Wearing an ugly green jacket with white shirt and red tie, the teen briefly let his eyes flutter open coming out of his trance-like state as the bus came to a stop. Ugh, he thought, that same damn nightmare, eyes watering remembering the events that transpired in his life not too long ago. When will they stop? Looking around the bus he noticed another student getting his things together ready to exit the bus. The blonde studied him for a moment. He looked like a pretty normal person all around, brown hair and eyes, wearing the same ugly suit that he currently was wearing. Another student, huh? He then got up himself and collected his things as well. It wasn't much, just a large scroll and a couple of books that he had been reading. As he was gathering his things he heard the bus driver say to the other teen. The Yokai Academy is a very horrifying school. Creeping the teen out. The blonde boy looked up at the driver and was slightly surprised at what he saw. Glowing eyes. He thought, that's something you don't see every day. I wonder if that's some kind of Dojutsu or Kekkei Genkai. As he exited the bus and saw the other teen freaking out and panicking over something. Maybe it was because of the lightning cracking in the background or something. A lot of people have a fear of that, right? He walked up to the teen, who was now on the verge of crying. Hey man, you okay? The other teen glanced back at him. Why yay, I'm fine, he stuttered. You're that other guy who was on the bus with me, right? He asked. Yep. Replied the blonde with a grin, then sticking out his hand, Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you. The other boy relaxed and gave the blonde a smile of his own, his personality seemed infectious. Hi there. I'm Tsukune Ono. Nice meeting you too, Uzumaki-san. He paused for a moment looking back at the intimidating building. Uzumaki-san, is it just me or is this place kinda creepy to you? Naruto squinted his eyes and looked at the building with lightning repeatedly going off behind it. Yay. That's definitely a creepy place. And just call me Naruto. I was never one for honorifics. This caused Tsukune to smile as well. Then call me Tsukune as well, Naruto, he replied, but seriously, what are we going to do about that? He stated while pointing to the mansion. That's a haunted mansion if I have ever seen one. This caused Naruto to shiver and go wide-eyed. How haunted, Naruto exclaimed, now visibly shaking in fright. Tsukune raised an eyebrow to this. Well yay, just look at the place. It's got haunted written all over it. Tsukune replied, well creeped out, he didn't understand why Naruto was basically acting like a little girl right now. There's probably axe murders, zombies, and ghosts in there as we speak. Gee, ghosts. Naruto shrieked. It was almost comical to Tsukune at how much of a baby he was acting. Now thinking of a new way to calm his new acquaintance, cause now it was almost embarrassing to see this grown teen basically up and start crying on the ground. Wow, he thought, I hope that I'm never that bad. I'm a chicken, but this is ridiculous. Well, I'm sure it's not like that at all, it just looks creepy on the outside. I'm sure that there is no crazy monster inside waiting to kill us. Oh Tsukune. If you only knew. Screw monsters and murders. Screamed Naruto, you can beat the crap out of those guys. But those ghosts. You can't even see or touch them. This caused Tsukune to just stare at him. While Naruto then went on how ghosts were like the scariest things on the planet. He's not afraid of monsters or murderers, but ghosts. Tsukune thought. That's kinda lame actually. And then. You can't even kill a freaking ghost because they're already dead. Naruto cried, still going on with tears in his eyes. And if you try to defend yourself you can't. You know why? He cried in Tsukune's face, causing the boy to think that there was something wrong with the blonde. Cause you'll just go through them. Thinking about it, Tsukune kinda could see why the blonde was so afraid, but come on, this was ridiculous. He was about to reply when Naruto cut him off again. Oh well, said the blonde, surprising Tsukune greatly at basically the turnaround Naruto had made in his conduct. If anything bad happens, at least you and me buddy will take them on. What are friends for after all, right? The blonde questioned him, getting the brown-haired boy to go wide-eyed. Friends? He stuttered. Surprised that the blonde had already thought of him as a friend. And also that he might have been a bit bipolar. Naruto smiled while scratching his cheek and sheepishly said, well yay, I mean I don't have a lot of them, but I figured since we're both here, why not be friends, right? Tsukune just smiled at this, thinking that he'd never really had friends before. Maybe this place won't be so bad after all, he thought. Welp. Exclaimed Naruto, causing Tsukune to break from his train of thought. I better get going, I have an appointment to keep and I don't want to be late. I hope we are in some of the same classes, Tsukune. I'll see you later, 8. He said with a grin, causing Tsukune to smile as well. "Yeah, see you Naruto," he replied, giving him a wave as he watched the blonde take off only to turn around and get one of the biggest shocks of his life. Naruto walked through the creepy mansion until he reached a giant door. Knocking and opening the door, he found himself staring into a pair of creepy glowing green eyes from a man who had a face covered with a wild hood. It was so dark in the room that Naruto could barely see the man, even though he was only about 20 feet away from him. "Ah. You must be Mr. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, correct?" said the strange robed man. After getting a nod from the blonde, he continued, "Then I suppose you know why you are here?" "Not really, Aji-san," replied Naruto, shaking his head. "Your messenger only stated that I would be informed of the mission once I actually came here. He said it would be an undercover mission, but that's about it." After stating this, there was a silence between the two. Naruto became increasingly uncomfortable with the silence as the man's creepy glowing eyes continued to stare at him. "Very well." The man finally replied. "You may refer to me as the headmaster. And your mission is simple." The man paused, causing Naruto to become increasingly curious as to what his mission would imply. "And that is to become a student here at the academy and pass all your classes." A smirk appeared on the man's face as he saw the blonde's eyes go wide with confusion. "What?" the blonde stated, causing the hooded man's smirk to become wider. "I believe you heard me perfectly well, Mr. Uzumaki." Enjoying the look on the bewildered blonde. "You will be well compensated for your work, I assure you. Now that that's taken care of, I have much work to do, so off you go." With that, the blonde was suddenly enveloped in a bright light and was forced to close his eyes. Once the light died down, he noticed that he was in an apartment-like room. Looking around, he saw his scroll and books on a bed that was right next to him. Feeling something in his hand, he looked down and found that there was a slip of paper in his hand. Looking at it, it looked like it was a schedule that was made up for him. "What the hell kind of mission is this anyways?" he asked himself, gathering himself together before noticing that he was supposed to be in his homeroom in 5 minutes. Back in the headmaster's office. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze," stated the principal with a grin that would split the face of anyone normal. "You will do marvelous things while you are here, I can be sure of that." But Tsukune. What a weird morning. Thought Tsukune, first making friends with some bipolar guy and then running into probably the hottest girl I have ever seen who turns out to be a vampire. What the hell is that about? Can't I just have a normal life? Breaking off from his thoughts, he felt a slap on the back that kinda stung. "Hey Tsukune. What a coincidence, we got the same homeroom together," said a familiar voice. Looking back, Tsukune saw that it was his crazy friend that he had met earlier this morning. A smile rose from Tsukune's mouth seeing his first friend again. "Hey Naruto, I'm glad you're in my homeroom too." The blonde just grinned and took a seat next to him. Then a woman with glasses came in that had some feline appearances to her. "Hello everyone and welcome to Yokai Academy," she stated. "I am your homeroom teacher Shizuka Nekonim. I think you all already know this, but this is a school built for the sake of monsters to attend," she said with a large smile on her face. Causing Tsukune to blanch in fear. "What?" thought Naruto with his eyebrow raised. "That old fart never told me that." The teacher continued. "Our current problem, the earth has already come under control of the humans. In order for us monsters to continue to survive, we have no choice but to peacefully coexist with the humans." The teacher smiled happily while pointing to a diagram of the earth that was drawn on the board. "At this academy, you will be studying how to coexist with humans." This statement caused Tsukune to go into a panic attack, looking left and right. "Monsters, what she saying?" thought Tsukune. She continued, "So for that reason, as a school rule, you will all live your lives at this academy in human form. Do you understand? It's a matter of being able to disguise yourself well as a human. This is the foundation of coexistence. You are never to allow any of your fellow students to know your true form, understand?" she asked, looking around the room. "Interesting," thought Naruto. Well, this mission shouldn't be so boring after all. Thinking of the possibilities of living with monsters caused Naruto to grin. This action was caught by Tsukune, though causing him to shake in fear. "See crap. Is Naruto a monster too?" he thought fearfully. "Great, my first friend here at this place and here he is a monster," he thought, causing him to become a little sad. "Hey teacher," said some douchy looking guy, "would it not be easier for us to eat up those puny humans?" Causing Tsukune to cringe and Naruto to narrow his eyes, and in case of beautiful grills, better to molest them. Ending with a smug look. "I will personally sever his tiny thing he calls a pakage if he ever even tries to touch a girl," thought an angry blonde. "Oh," cried the teacher. "Incidentally, here at the academy, the teachers and students are all monsters, so there are no genuine humans here. Since this academy is within a secret sacred world, to those humans who come to know of our existence, we will bring them death or something." Causing a blonde's eyes to widen and Tsukune to start crying silently in the back. "What the hell kind of rule is that?" Naruto thought, "but the headmaster must know that I am a human as well, right?" His thoughts were interrupted by a loud "excuse me." Naruto looked up and saw a girl his age with pink hair and green eyes coming in the room. He had to admit this girl was quite beautiful. Her figure was that to die for, her long slender legs coming out of her short skirt. And by the looks of things, she was very well developed. Then he saw that there was a choker around her neck with a strange cross thing attached to it. Naruto narrowed his eyes and noticed something off with it. What is that? He thought, it's like that thing is holding a great deal of power. No, that's not right, it seems to be holding something back. After the entrance ceremony I kinda got lost in the school, sorry I'm late, replied the cute girl. Oh, that's fine, replied Shizuka, just take a seat. Well, thinking what a cute girl she was while getting an okay as a reply. Said girl sauntered down the classroom while all the males in the class seemed to have turned into crazed hormonal machines. Who is she? Said a random student. Such flowing hair. Big eyes. Whoa, beautiful. Replied another nameless student. Hot. Screamed another, she's too hot. I'm so happy to be in the same class as this girl. Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. Are you joking me? He thought, yay, she's hot, but still, she's just like every other person. What the hell is wrong with this class? Frowning at the way his classmates were acting up. Moka? Said Tsukune quietly, causing the girl to turn to him before recognizing him instantly. It's Tsukune. She cried while launching a flying glomp at him. We're in the same class. Well, Tsukune looked like he was about to have a heart attack and Naruto just raised an eyebrow. The rest of the class though became furious at the beautiful girl's reaction. Cried a student. What's with this guy? What relation does he have with that girl? Cried another. Our beautiful girl. Our beautiful girl. Sobbed another. After class down the hall, a beautiful pink-haired girl could be seen dragging a dazed boy around with her arm intertwined in his. Tsukune couldn't believe it. Is this a dream? He thought, it has to be, today has been just like being inside a dream. He glanced at the smiling girl on his arm. But, if I can be this happy, I guess the monsters aren't that big of a deal. Glancing around, he then saw a familiar blonde-haired student walking down the hall to them. Hey Naruto. Exclaimed Tsukune, causing the pink hair ball of joy on her arm to look up at him in confusion. Naruto looked up from the book that he was reading and smiled when he saw who it was. Hey Tsukune. He said with a smile. Looks like you two are having a blast now, doesn't it? Laughing sheepishly, smiling, Tsukune said, yay, I guess so. By the way, I would like to introduce you to my good friend here, Moka-san. This here Moka is my first friend that I made here. Naruto looking in the direction of the pink-haired girl. Hi, nice to meet you. Chirped the girl, my name is Moka Akashia. I hope we can be friends as well. Smiling ever so much at the blonde, causing the blonde to chuckle. Nice to meet you too, Moka-chan, replied the blonde. I'm Naruto Uzumaki and I don't see why we couldn't be friends. More the merrier, right? This caused the girl to beam brightly at him and smile even more. Yeah. She cried, jumping up and down, you're the second person who I have made friends with today. She exclaimed, causing Naruto to chuckle even more until he felt another presence come up from behind him. My, you are a pretty one, aren't you? Said the man who was making the comments of eating humans and molesting girls. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the man. You are called Moka Akashia, are you not? I am your classmate Saizo Kamiya. Salutations. He came up to Naruto while speaking still with Moka. By the way, while is a beautiful lady like yourself associating with a couple of losers like the ... what th. Saizo went to grab Naruto by the throat, only to find himself choking what looked to be like a large Hello Kitty doll. Both Tsukune and Moka sweat dropped at how pathetic Saizo looked holding onto a little girl's play doll. Well, who knew, laughed Naruto, who knew that the big bad man on campus liked playing with little girl toys. With that, most of the hall began to snicker at the larger seething man. Sensing his anger, Moka grabbed both Naruto and Tsukune, running off in the distance, leaving the douchy man in his rage with his new doll. How dare he? He said to himself. Moka Akashia, you will be mine. After I rip that blonde bastard apart limb from him, ripping the poor kitty's head from its body. In the halls a little ways away from the incident that just happened, both Moka and Tsukune were taking a breather while Naruto was just looking upon them, wondering what was going on. Well, that was a little scary, wasn't it? Said Moka with a smile. How did you end up doing that, by the way, Naruto-kun? She asked the blonde with curiosity in her eyes. Tsukune also wanted to know what the heck happened back there. It was all kind of just random. What are you talking about? Questioned Naruto, getting kind of nervous. I thought that one of you did that. Crap. I can't let them know that I'm a human, at least not yet. He thought. Both just looked at him curiously, then just shrugged it off as something else that was weird about the academy. Then Tsukune spoke up about something that has been bothering him for a while. By the way guys, why are you guys being so nice to me? He asked, causing both the blonde and the pink-haired girl to look at him. I mean, I'm just some worthless mediocre guy. Don't say that. cried Moka, to me you're not mediocre or worthless or anything, Tsukune. Yeah man. Naruto added. Maybe you seem average, but hey, I can tell you got a great heart on you man. You're the kind of person who will be there by your friend's side when they need it. That doesn't make you mediocre. That just makes you awesome. He said with a guy-like grin holding his thumb up. Moka and Naruto. You guys, Tsukune stuttered, his eyes watering from the nice things that his new friends and said. Then he saw Moka get red. Besides. Moka started, we're on blood-sucking terms. She said with a large blush on her face. Tsukune's face faulted after that while Naruto was just plain confused. What the hell does that mean? Naruto thought looking between the two. Then Tsukune noticed Naruto's confusion. Oh yay, Naruto, Moka's a vampire. He stated as though it was the most normal thing in the world. Rigged. He thought as he was looking at Moka. Tsukune. Cried Moka, we aren't supposed to tell each other what kind of monster we are. Tsukune gained a sheepish expression after this. Hey, it's cool. Vampire huh? That seems pretty cool to me. Naruto said, getting a surprised expression from the vampire. Why you mean you don't hate vampires or anything? Asked Moka shyly, causing Naruto to beep his head in confusion. Kawaii. She thought. No, not really. I mean why would I? Naruto questioned before he was enveloped in a flying glump. Oh thank you, thank you, thank you. Cried Moka, cutting off the oxygen supply to Naruto's body. Swinging the teen around like a rag doll, she continued. You don't know how much this means to me that now I have another friend who knows that I am a vampire. Tsukune in the meanwhile was in the background with a sweat drop forming on his head at seeing his friend about to perish from lack of oxygen. Moka. He said, causing her to look at him. You might want to let him go. She looked at the boy in her hands and say that part of his soul was leaving his body before she jumped back embarrassed from her actions. Jigomen. She said. I just got really excited, that's all. She said with a cute embarrassed smile. Naruto picked himself up and wheezing and smiling as well. It's fine. Just glad that we can be friends, that's all. Naruto replied with a smile, causing the girl to smile as well. Holy shit. I think she's as strong as Sakura-chan. He thought. Well, I gotta get going and unpack some of my things, so I will catch you two later, alright? He asked. Sure okay Naruto. Both Moka and Tsukune said, waving goodbye to their new friend. Naruto then took off to his new living quarters, leaving both Tsukune and Moka alone. I wonder what type of monster Naruto is. Moka asked out loud before chomping down on Tsukune's neck, causing him to cry out. Kapuchu. Naruto continued walking along his path reading a book. Not really reading his book, Naruto was reminiscing about his past, not really paying attention where he was going when he accidentally bumped into someone else, causing them to drop their books and fall down. Hey! Cried a female voice. Naruto looked down and saw a blue-haired with purple eyes and a yellow sweater. She was very attractive, and he also noticed how well developed this girl was as well. Holy crap. Thought Naruto, what's up with the girls at this school? Her friests are as big as Bachan's. Naruto then bent down and started gathering her books. I'm sorry about that, miss, I wasn't really paying attention to where I was going. I really am sorry. He said while offering another hand to help her up. She just smiled at this and grabbed the offered hand. It's alright I suppose. She said before gaining a sultry look. I bet you just wanted to peek up my panties, didn't you? At this Naruto choked on his own saliva. And no. He sputtered, I promise that's not what was happening. Naruto said quickly with his hands up, shaking back and forth. Enough women in his lifetime have rained hell on him and his sensei for perverted tendencies. Even if the situation wasn't even that perverted, he still got beaten up. Maybe it was just Kunoichi, but still, he was deathly afraid of the female hand of righteousness. Ha 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 ha. The blue-haired girl couldn't help but start laughing at the poor blonde. She had to hold her side, she was laughing so hard. Naruto just gained a confused look at that. Sorry about that, she said after she had calmed down a little bit. I couldn't help myself. She smiled, but you are just going to be so much fun to tease, I can tell you that. Sticking out her hand she said, the name's Kurumu Kurono by the way. Naruto glanced at the hand, making sure it wasn't a trick before taking it, and giving her his best foxy grin said, hey Kurumu-chan, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, nice to meet you. Kurumu just grinned at him more as he helped her with the rest of her books that she was carrying. Sorry about that, here let me help you carry these books for you since I gave you so much trouble. He said smiling. Kurumu just nodded and latched onto his arm. A1, mission accomplished. Soon every boy here will fall for me just as you have, Naruto-kun. Then I will have found my destined one for sure. She thought, walking with Naruto down the hall. The next morning Naruto woke up, got dressed and left his room for classes when he noticed a panic-looking Tsukune freaking out about something with two large luggage bags in his hands. Hey Tsukune. He yelled, causing the panicked boy to look at him. What are you doing? We're going to be late for classes. He saw a sad smile reach across his friend's face. I can't handle this, Naruto, I just can't do it. Tsukune said, I just want to go to a normal school. A human one, you know, and be normal. This caused Naruto to tilt his head to the side in confusion. Why's that? The blonde asked, is it because you are a human? Causing Tsukune's eyes to open wide in fear and look at the blonde. How did you know? Tsukune asked. Naruto just laughed and shook his head. You just told me now. Also, I kinda saw you freaking out yesterday when Shizuka-sensei was saying how humans would get killed if they were discovered for being here. Also, you just said you wanted to be normal. Why would you want to be normal and go to a normal human school? I mean, it's possible for a monster to want to do that, but not really likely. Besides, I was just guessing. I really didn't know until you said that. The blonde smiled at the wide-eyed boy. But that's okay. He continued, causing Tsukune to look up right at him with wide eyes. Because I think that this place would be pretty boring if I was the only human here in the academy. Tsukune's jaw just dropped after hearing this. Why, I mean that why you're a who, he stuttered, pointing a finger at the blonde. A human? Naruto asked. Yep. Born and raised as one. Smiling at his friend. And friends, especially human friends, have to look out for each other, right? But aren't you afraid? Tsukune asked, wondering how he was not freaking out when earlier he was almost peeing his pants about ghosts. The blonde scratched his head and frowned a little. Well, yeah, a little. He replied. But what I mean, we should be safe, right? Cause others can't show their true forms, right? So we should be good. Tsukune was about to tell him his experience with Saizo, but the blonde beat him to it. And even if a monster does show his ugly face, we'll be there to kick their ass together, right, buddy? Naruto had a huge grin on his face and wrapped an arm around the terrified boy. This guy, Tsukune thought. He's really the only friend I have ever had, and here I am running away from him. Naruto broke him out of his thoughts. Well, whatever you decide, let me know. I want you here, but if you feel strongly about going, that's fine too. Just make sure you leave with me your address and stuff, I want to keep in contact with you. The blonde said. But, come on. It will be a blast if you stay here. And Moka-chan also would love it, I'm sure, and not just for the blood-sucking stuff either. The blonde urged the scared boy. Uzumaki. Someone yelled. Uh-oh. Said the blonde with wide eyes. Tsukune gave him a questioning glance. Who's that? He asked. Naruto started backing up and slowly and started to nervously speak. Well, you see. I might have pulled probably one of my more baddest pranks in the headmaster's office, so hey, let me know what goes on. And you better not leave without saying goodbye to me first. The blonde said angrily. Both then saw a dust cloud in the distance getting bigger. Well, God, Gasialter Tsukune. The blonde said quickly before running away. Tsukune just looked at the running blonde, thinking about what he said before he heard a capuchu. Man, all I did was give that place a little color, that's all. Naruto said to himself as he was walking through the dead forest. Kami knows that that place could have used it. And why not with the greatest color in the world, the one blessed by Kami. If you don't know which color I'm talking about, go see what the heck Naruto constantly wears. Crash. Naruto's eyes lit up at that. Honing in on his senses, he starts jumping in the trees towards the disturbance he heard. Tsukune. He hears a female voice cry. That's Moka. The blonde thought, urgently picking up his speed. Tsukune was on the ground bleeding underneath some gravestones while Moka was running up to him. Grabbing him, crying, she looks over him. How horrible. Even though you came all the way back for me, this happened. Tsukune starts to feel tears drip on his face. I'm sorry, after all. Humans and monsters are very different, aren't they? Because I'm a vampire, I suck blood of humans and just end up hurting humans. The truth is the whole time I just felt like I wanted to make a friend, even if it was just at a human school. Hearing this gave strength to Tsukune's heart. Shaking, he started to get up while Moka's eyes widened. I'm a weak, he started, worthless guy Moka. But I realized it wasn't right running back home and parting with both you and Naruto like that. Moka's eyes widened at hearing the blonde's name. Because I want to be both of your friends, Moka. Moka started to cry right there while a huge shadow came over them. What the hell are you guys babbling about? Saizo screamed. Just die now, scum. As he threw a large fist heading for Tsukune. They both closed their eyes waiting for the hit, then heard. Dynamic entry. They opened their eyes wide to that and say a blonde teen deliver a flying kick in the air to the giant orc's face. The orc flew off, crashing into some dead trees dazed by the kick, while the blonde just landed in a crouch in front of the two baffled teens. Looking back, he smiled at them both. See, Tsukune, he started, you're the type of guy who is there whenever you are needed the most. Smiling, he stood up. No mediocre or worthless guy would ever do what you just did for Moka. You, Tsukune, are a goddamn hero in my book and someone who is precious to me as well. Smiling with his thumb up while Tsukune went wide-eyed at the blonde's proclamation. Then Naruto, he thought. You too, Moka-chan. We'll get to know each other more, but you two are another precious person to me," declared Naruto, getting another wide-eyed teen. And with that, Naruto narrowed his eyes at his enemy, who was started to slowly get back up. "I will protect the both of you with my life." He yelled, nothing but determination coming from him. Then Naruto-kun, both Moka and Tsukune thought. "Tsukune," Naruto said with a seriousness that he had never seen the blonde have before. "Take Moka-chan with you and get out of here." Tsukune went wide-eyed again. "Keep her safe, I'll take care of this trash over here." "Naruto, you can't do that." Tsukune cried, "You have no chance against that thing, you're human too." This caused Moka's eyes to go wide. "That thing can punch through concrete walls, he'll destroy you," cried Tsukune, fearing the worst for his friend. "Doesn't matter," Naruto said quietly, causing Tsukune to look at him in confusion. "I will protect the both of you. Now get out of here," yelled Naruto as he pushed Tsukune towards Moka while running at the behemoth, who was now on his feet. "You think you can take me, puny monster?" yelled an enraged Saizo. "I'll rip off your head." He too began charging the blonde. Both pulled back their fists, getting ready for a badass haymaker on the other, when they were blown back by a force that came out of nowhere. Looking around, they say a bright light enveloped the other teens, who were off to the side. They couldn't see anything for a while, then as soon as the light died down, they say Tsukune off to the side with a confused look on his face, holding the cross that was around Moka's neck. Then they saw another person. She was wearing the same thing as Moka was, but she had long silver hair, her eyes were red and slitted as well, surprising Naruto greatly. Not only that, but her figure had become more developed and womanly. One could honestly say that this was the definition of sexy. But the most staggering difference they felt was the energy that was pouring off of the woman. It was radical. If Naruto had to guess, it would have been like if he was in sage mode. He could literally feel Saizo shaking in fear at the energy she was radiating. Just like the legends, the orc began, red eyes. And intense supernatural energy. This is a super vampire?" he cried, looking enraged as well. The woman glanced over at Tsukune, who was still baffled by her appearance, then glanced at Naruto, who had the same look. She gave him a nod before saying, "What's wrong, Rogue One?" in a sultry voice. "You want me, right? Placing a hand over your well-developed fists, just try to take me by force, big boy." Naruto, still in his daze, was backhanded by orc off to the side and lunged for Moka, hand outstretched. "Moka!" cried Tsukune, fearing for her life. All of a sudden the orc's hand was caught. Saizo's eyes widened. Attack with this degree of power, Moka started. Why doesn't she even bat an eye?" Saizo thought fearfully. A sneer then came across the beautiful girl's face. "You had better know your place," she yelled while kicked the shit out of the orc's face, blood and teeth leaving from the spot she kicked. The orc then flew through several trees and probably was still going for another mile or so before his stopped. "A low-class monster like you, who has nothing to show for his size, doesn't even make for a decent opponent in a contest of strength." "Holy shit," thought our blonde hero. "She's at least as strong as Sakura-chan and Ba-chan." Having seen the kick and getting pissed off for being brushed out of the fight. Now not minding as much seeing the results. He saw her walk over to Tsukune and smirk. "You scared of this, Moka?" she questioned him, seeing him freeze up. She grabbed a cross out of his hand and said, "Don't get so worried, this me who has not awoken from slumber for a long time is still tired. I have no intention of harming you. As your blood is very delicious to my sleeping self." She finished with a hand on his cheek. She then turned in Naruto's direction, getting an eyebrow raise out of the blonde. Walking over to him, she stopped about a foot away from him, staring intensely into his eyes. Seconds passed and Naruto was becomingly increasingly uncomfortable with the beauty in front of him. Never really one to be on the receiving end of so much attention. He was about to say something when he was suddenly cut off by the vampire. "You are a very interesting person, Naruto Uzumaki," she said slowly. "There are not many humans today that have the kind of eyes that you possess." Shocking the blonde. "You are not even remotely intimidated by my power, are you, Uzumaki-san?" she asked the blonde, only getting a shrug from him, causing her to chuckle. "You intrigue me greatly, Uzumaki-san," she said, smiling, moving closer to the blonde as he stiffened and became nervous. "Ah, Moka-chan. What are umph?" she interrupted him as she pinned him to a tree and put a hand over his mouth. Struggling to get out of her grip, he could feel her breath on his neck that sent shivers down his spine. She was using her body to pin most of his down, and he could feel every curve and every mound that the grill possessed, causing his teenage hormones to go crazy. Taking in his scent, she let out a soft moan. "You have a delicious smell, Uzumaki," she stated dreamily. Her fangs became more prominent and was about to bite the blonde before she stopped. She moved back, looking at the struggling blonde in front of her before smiling. "Not yet, Uzumaki," she said, causing the blonde to momentarily stop struggling. "I want to see who you are first before I take you blood from you." Smirking as she dropped the bewildered blonde. "I look forward to finding out why someone like you is capable of having the kind of eyes that you do." Until then, take care of the sentimental other Moka for me, will you? With that she put the Rosario back on her choker, causing her to revert back to her pink-haired self, falling on top of him like a rag doll. Silence permeated the area at that moment, both Tsukune and Naruto wondering what the hell just happened. Then, the blonde stomach growled loudly, breaking the silence. Turning to the other boy he asked, you want to go get some ramen? A week had gone by in the academy since the whole Saizo incident with the whole school, believing that Naruto kicked the living shit out of the molester. Walking down the halls, students left and right were avoiding Naruto like the plague out of fear that he would go crazy and deliver a can of whoop-ass upon themselves. Well, this is a familiar feeling. The blonde thought bitterly, looking at the students who were trying to avoid making eye contact with him. Frowning at how the other students were acting towards him, he continued down the hall reading the book that he was holding. Naruto-kun. He heard a cry from down the hall. Looking up, he smiled when he saw a familiar busty blue-haired girl running to greet him. Hey Kurumu-chan, what's up? He asked as the girl gave a little skip before stopping in front of him. You ready for home economics? She asked with a confident grin. Of course Kurumu-chan, he replied as they were entering the classroom, putting his book away. Kurumu gave a curious glance at the book. Hey Naruto-kun, why are you always reading that anyways? She asked, it seems like every time I see you, you have that book out. Naruto just looked at the bag where he put his book and gave a sad smile, surprising the girl. It's a book one of my senseis wrote. I like reading it because it kind of lets me never forget him, you know. He said to the blue-haired succubus. Kurumu remained quiet, thinking. I've never seen Naruto-kun sad about anything before. I wonder what happened. She thought before the teacher began to speak. Alright class, today we are going to individually be making whatever you want and I will be giving a grade to you by the end of class. Alright. Begin. The teacher said, making the students rush to their sections to grab all of their supplies to begin making something worthwhile. Naruto and Kurumu just looked at each other with a competitive glance before racing off to get their own ingredients for their respective dishes. An hour later. Kurumu just stared at the dish that laid in front of her. Ramen. She deadpanned at the dish. Of course. Said the blonde. What else would be able to give me an A in the class other than the dish from Kami herself? He declared, causing the blue-hair girl's eye to twitch. She smacked him upside the head. How about something that doesn't come in an instant bowl, you idiot? She said, annoyed. You could have actually worked on something better if you hadn't been helping me here and there. God, Naruto-kun, sometimes you're just too nice for your own good. Now you're not going to get a good grade. She said, feeling kinda guilty because the blonde had been watching over her things as well as his. How he did that, she wasn't too sure about. Smiling sheepishly while rubbing the back of his head, meh. Don't worry about it too much, Kurumu-chan, I'm sure everything will work out fine in the end. I mean, come on. Ramen is awesome. He exclaimed, causing the girl to just roll her eyes and smile. She couldn't help it. Naruto just made her smile whenever she was around him. He just seemed to have a pure nature around him. She had found out real quickly that he wasn't a pervert like most of the boys in the school, he just liked Kurumu for who she was. Plain and simple. She had never had that relationship with someone like that before. She didn't really know what to make of it. Sure, he was innocent and she loved to take advantage of that almost daily. What could she say? She loved to tease him. God, she loved to tease him, his reactions were just too cute and hilarious. Ramen Uzumaki-san, really? The teacher came over, interrupting their little conversation. Sometimes I wonder if you even want to be in this class, boy. Alright, let's get this over with. The teacher sat down and took out her chopsticks to take a bite. She took a bite and began to chew, but stopped in mid-chew with wide eyes. Slowly she looked at the bowl, then at the boy who made it, then back at the bowl, swallowing the noodles. Oh my god. This ramen is like a gift from Kami. She cried out, surprising a blue-haired girl and getting a grin from the blonde. She started scarfing down the ramen at inhuman rates to get more of that delicious taste. Kurumu just stared at the teacher, wide-eyed by her reaction, then at the grinning blonde who gave her the guy-sensei smile with a thumbs up. What did I tell you, Kurumu-chan, he said, Kami's gift to us. The blue-haired girl just giggled at his antics. The teacher stood up and wiped her mouth with a napkin. Uzumaki-san, that was delicious. She said with a smile, you made a simple dish turn out to be one of the most delicious things that I have ever tasted. For that, you get a solid A. Silence permeated throughout the room. Say what? Naruto quietly replied, just staring at her. Kurumu was speechless. Why didn't he get an A+ if it tasted so good? Seeing his confusion, she decided to elaborate a reason for the grade. You see, Uzumaki-san, she began, 90% of the meal itself is all about how it tastes. But there has to be some effort put into the presentation of the meal. Causing Naruto to blink. You see, when I first saw this bowl of ramen, I thought it was just going to be an ordinary bowl of ramen. I wasn't excited to eat it at all. She continued while Naruto was trying to internally deal with the blasphemy that the woman was stating left and right in front of him. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't be excited to eat a bowl of ramen no matter how boring it looked? If you add a couple of ingredients to give it more color and flair, that would make this dish truly a dish from Kami. She ended with a smile before walking away. But that the bell rang and students began to exit the room. Naruto, still in his shell-shocked state, was taken out of it when he saw a hand waving back and forth in front of him. "Hello?" questioned Kurumu, gaining the blonde's attention. Immediately the blonde crossed his arms, leaving the room with her, while muttering something about people not knowing if something from Kami, if it slapped them in the face. She giggled once again at his behavior. He then started in another direction than the blue-haired girl was going. "Where are you going, Naruto-kun?" she asked, getting the blonde's attention once again. "I'm off to eat the Tsukune and Moka-chan for lunch," he replied happily. "You want to come?" he offered. Kurumu was silent for a bit after she heard a certain pink-haired girl's name. "Moka. Akashia?" She questioned the blonde slowly, causing the blonde to tilt his head to the side in confusion. Kawaii, she mentally saved that image of him in her internal hard drive in her brain. But now wasn't the time to focus on that, she had more important matters to deal with. Yay. They're like two of my closest friends," he said, then getting a grin. "You should meet them, I'm sure that they would just love you." Kurumu just blinked and smiled sadly. "Go ahead, Naruto-kun." She sighed, causing the blonde to become even more confused. "I have a couple of things that I need to get done, but maybe later, she said with a smile. Naruto just laughed and nodded, then going his separate way. Not noticing the girl he left behind clenching her fists. So that's why he's not infatuated with me, she thought, cause he hanging around with that for. She had found it odd that Naruto wasn't worshipping her like all the other boys in the school were. She could tell that he was attracted to her, but she wanted him at her mercy. She stormed down the hall in a rage, planning her revenge on a certain vampire for ruining her plans at the academy. At night. "Damn it," Naruto yelled, throwing papers, scrolls and ink all over the place. Strange symbols could be seen drawn all around his room, along with different books of theory of Fuinjutsu. "I don't need to fucking absorb chakra. I need something to fix chakra, damn it." Naruto sat down, angrily glaring at the book scrolls and a piece of paper he had in front of him. He then heard a knock on his door. Getting up and calming down, the teen answered the door to find Tsukune on the other side. "Hey Naruto," he said nervously, "you okay, man? I heard a lot of yelling and I was wondering if you were alright," he said, glancing and seeing the mess that was inside. Naruto just smiled at the concern of his new friend. "I'm fine, Tsukune, I'm just having a little trouble figuring out a couple of homework assignments," he said, then getting a confused look from the teen in front of him, he elaborated, "When I get stressed or confused, I tend to work off my stress by working out, you know, lifting weights or push-ups. That kind of stuff." Tsukune nodded, somewhat understanding what the blonde was trying to convey. "So what's up? Is that it?" the blonde asked. Tsukune hesitated. "Well, it's about Moka-san," said in a low voice, surprising the blonde. "What do you mean? You two are great friends," the blonde said. "Just like me and you, right?" Tsukune smiled at that but continued. "Well, I'm feeling like Moka is just hanging around me to just suck my blood, you know," he said, getting an eyebrow raise from the blonde. "I mean, what else would a beautiful girl like her be hanging out with a guy like him, hey?" he cried out as the blonde smacked him upside his head. "What the hell was that for?" he shouted. "For being a dumbass," Naruto said, causing the boy to quiet down. "Do you really think a girl like Moka would do something like that? We both know her, Tsukune, and you're telling me that you don't trust her?" He glared at the boy. Well, nodded. Tsukune started. "But nothing, do you think that my friendship with Moka-chan is based off of nothing as well? Our friendship was formed through you," Naruto pointed out. "Tsukune, you're just thinking too much of things. All of us are friends, just accept it. We all have our weird quirks. I don't just keep you around to pull stupid pranks on you all the time." I'd gotta grumble out Tsukune something about leaving fake spiders all in his bed and underwear drawer. "The same with Moka-chan. We're all friends, don't worry about it." Naruto finished with a wave of his hand, causing Tsukune to smile. "Thanks, Naruto," he said quietly, "you really are a good friend." Naruto just looked at him before grinning. "Alright, enough of this emotional crap," he said, smiling, "any more and I'll have to take you on a pranking mission to cheer us up," causing the boy to smile even more. What the hell is a pranking mission, he thought, sounds exciting. "I got some more studies to get done tonight, so I'll see you tomorrow 8. We'll hang out after classes, okay?" Getting a nod from the boy, Naruto said goodbye and shut the door. Turning around to the mess that he created before. Picking things up, he started to clean the ink off of the scrolls and books it had poured onto. 10 minutes later, when everything was clean again, he sat down on his bed in a meditative stance and started to control his breathing. The next thing he knew, he was in a sewer, in front of a large cage. A small seal could be found on the padlock of the cell. Naruto quietly walked up to the cage and put his hand slowly on the bars of it. Eyes watering, he looked at the creature that dwelled within the prison cell. Clenching his fist until it drew blood, he turned away and started walking away from the cell. With determination and tears in his eyes, he silently spoke, "Don't worry, Kurama, I will find a way to heal you. That is my promise of a lifetime." Leaving the sleeping creature alone in his cage. 4:30 a.m. The ungodly sound of an alarm clock went off in Naruto's room. Activating a seal on the palm of Naruto's hand, a kunai shot out and pierced the cursed thing, sticking it to the wall, while the sound slowly faded away, allowing the cursed piece of machinery to die a gruesome death. The blonde slowing opened his eyes and stretched. "I really need to find a better way to hide my training," he said to himself, getting out of bed and grabbing his training gear. He over his outfit to make sure there were no substantial damages done to the armor. It was a standard Anbu-issued armor with an Itachi. Naruto, giving a nod to show that there was nothing wrong with it, put it on and jumped out the window to find a clearing for him to train. 2 hours later. If one were to venture into the dead forest, they would see something quite unusual. There in the middle of a pond stood a man with blonde hair and 3 whisker lines on the sides of his face. He was sweating profusely and breathing heavily. Around the blonde were 6 identical copies of him, each in a stance that showed they were ready to attack at any given moment. The bird cried out from a distance, signaling the clones to all attack the original. The original grabbed a fist that was coming from behind, he added chakra to the other hand and threw it at the attacker, palm open, where a sickle came spinning out attached to a chain, slicing the clone in half. Using the chain, Naruto blocked 5 other kicks that were aiming for the top of his head. "Erg," he grunted before throwing off the extra weight. On the other end of the chain was a lengthened kunai, he jerked the chain in a direction to cause the kunai to shoot out at one of the clones, piercing it in the skull, dispelling it. Grabbing the kunai in his hand, he started to swing the sickled end around in a deadly manner. The 4 other clones got into their stances and charged in for an attack. Even before they were halfway there, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as another clone came up from under the water in his defense zone. Wrapping his arm around the chain, the clone then kicked the original, effectively taking the weapon away from the blonde. Naruto's eyes narrowed as the other clones split into different directions. A couple of the clones threw a couple shurikens at the blonde, grinning as they made different hand signs. "Kage shuriken no jutsu," they cried. Suddenly a couple of shurikens turned into hundreds. Naruto added chakra to a seal on this other hand and absorbed the shurikens before using his other hand to launch the metal objects at the other clones, dispelling 3 more. Naruto looked up to see a clone with an incoming blue orb in the palm of his hand heading straight for him. "Rasengan!" cried the clone. Naruto concentrated his chakra to the seal in his hand and met the attack with his palm out. Struggling for a bit, the original finally was able to absorb the attack before spinning around with his other hand extended to the clone who was coming up behind him. "Rasengan!" the blonde whispered as the blue ball of energy that the other clone had made formed in his palm and blew the other clone away. "Space-time seals," the blonde thought, "gotta love them." Spinning around again with his other palm out, a 3-pronged kunai came flying out of his hand, aiming for the last clone. Barely able to dodge it, the clone slid to one side, only to be wrapped by ninja wire before being cut in half by a giant shuriken wheel. The original sighed in relief as he saw the last of his clones go down. Flimsy as they may be, they still are a deadly training method to be working with. Naruto went over to gather his equipment. Picking up a 3-pronged kunai, he thought, well, I guess I can finally use the Hirshin in battle now. How my old man was able to latch seals on people is a mystery I need to figure out. Going over to his other equipment, still thinking about his battle simulation, I'm able to incorporate the fuinjutsu I've been studying for the most part. Looking at his wrist, these gravity seals are awesome, I should have started with these from the start. Glancing at what looked like to be a land of fire symbol on his bicep, I still need to test that out and see if that works as well. He thought, grinning at the prospects of the drawing on his arm. Looking up, it seemed to be getting brighter, cue for him to get his butt in gear and get ready for school. After a quick run, he headed to his room, showered and got dressed for the day. Putting on his suit jacket, he looked inside at the different intricate designs that he had made from sewing a special blend of thread into the fabric. He remembered when he asked a cute pink-haired vampire to teach him how to sew. Sure, he knew how to sew flesh in the middle of a battlefield, but sewing on fabric takes a more feminine touch. Flashback no jutsu. You want me to do what? A surprised Moka asked as a certain blonde teen nervously stood in front of her with a slight blush on his face. I asked if you could help me learn to sew. He said. He was looking everywhere but at the girl. Please, Moka-chan. A lot of times I find myself just getting rips and tears in my clothes and I was hoping you could teach me to sew, he cried out with his hands in front of him in a pleading fashion. Moka couldn't help but giggle at the sight of the blonde. Sure, Naruto-kun. Chirped Moka, getting a huge grin from the blonde, and he leaped up in celebration while picking up the girl swinging around in a circle. While surprised at the act, Moka couldn't help but enjoy the happiness that the blonde gave off at such a simple request. "Oh thank you Moka-chan," said Naruto with a grin. "I promise I'll repay you back sometime." Causing the girl to smile at Naruto. Then flashback no jutsu. Shaking off the memory, Naruto started to move on to his classroom while reading his book that he always seemed to have out. What is that girl? A pink hair vampire asked herself. What is she to Tsukune? They really looked like lovers didn't they? Totally all over each other like that. Her thoughts were interrupted by a shout. Moka-chan. She looked up to see her friend Naruto coming down the hall to her. She quickly gathered herself up and smiled at the blonde. "Hello Naruto-kun, how are you?" she said with a strained face. Naruto's eyebrow just rose at that. "Moka-chan. What's wrong?" the blonde asked the girl, causing the girl's face to become even more strained. "Nothing is wrong Naruto-kun. Why would you think that?" she asked, slightly panicking that the teen had already seen through her. "Moka-chan, we're friends right?" the blonde asked, causing the girl to look at him curiously before she nodded her head. "I can tell when something is wrong with my friends. So just tell me, what's going on?" Moka hesitated before she began to tell Naruto about what had transpired between her and Tsukune, then later when she saw another girl hanging onto to him. I think that Tsukune-kun only thinks that I am his friend because of his blood and whack. She mumbled out, rubbed a sore spot on the side of her head from where Naruto smacked her. "Moka-chan, don't be an idiot. Tsukune absolutely adores you," Naruto said, causing the girl to look up at him. "I mean, that much is obvious, but if you honestly feel that way, then just talk to him. Do other things with him. You know how you taught me how to sew. That's what friends do. Hang out with him, get to know who the real Tsukune is, you know." The blonde finished as a light of understanding could be seen come across the girl's face. Naruto then brushed a couple of strands of hair affectionately out of her face. "Now, I don't want to see another frown on that face, alright?" he said, getting a nod and a smile with a light blush from the girl. "Good. Now go find him and talk to him. I'll see you later Moka-chan," Naruto said with a wave as he started down the hallway. Moka just looked after the retreating figure. Something about Naruto made her feel like she could do just about anything. Maybe it's his eyes. She thought, when I look at them, it's like he knows there isn't anything he couldn't do. She continued thinking about the blonde with a small blush on her face. Realizing what she was thinking about, her face flushed even more. What am I doing? I like Tsukune. Naruto is just a really good friend, that's all. Besides, she paused, I don't think that he will ever see me that way. She started making her way down the hall even more confused than before. After another lovely class period, Naruto was walking side by side with Kurumu, both talking about unimportant things in life. I just don't get it Kurumu-chan. Naruto gave a loud sigh while Kurumu just giggled at the blonde's new dilemma. You got fruit, good, cake, even better, fruit cake, nasty crap. The girl started laughing at the blonde's simple problem. It's okay Naruto-kun, it's just one of those mysteries of life we'll never solve, she said with a smile while the blonde mumbled something about crappy fruit that doesn't even taste like cake. They then came to the point where they usually parted ways. Kurumu stopped though, thinking about something. The day's the day that I take out that pink for. She thought while getting a confused look from Naruto. I don't want to do this to Naruto, he's probably the nicest guy I have ever met, but if I use that charm, he would never find out. Naruto on the other hand was waving his hand in front of her face trying to get her attention. Piluu? Kurumu-chan, you there? He yelled, causing the girl to jump back with fright. Sorry Naruto-kun. She stammered, just got lost in thought there. Naruto smiled at that. No worries Kurumu-chan, happens all the time to me, he said. Turning to walk down the other way he started, well, you'll see. He felt a tug on his arm stopping him from going any further. Looking back he saw Kurumu looking at the ground a little nervous. What's up Kurumu-chan, he asked. The girl was now biting her bottom lip. Naruto, she paused, would you be willing to help me with something? She asked him, getting him to blink in confusion before grinning happily. Of course Kurumu-chan, whatever you need, he declared. Stealing her resolve, she grabbed his face and looked straight into his eyes, making him go wide-eyed in surprise. Then. Forgive me, she whispered before activating her charm, kissing him. The pink-haired girl sat on the steps outside of a building mopping around thinking about her predicament. I wonder what I am to Tsukune, she said, do I really just want to suck his blood? Tears started to form in her eyes. Naive one, Tsukune is just being manipulated. A voice came out of nowhere causing the girl to give a startled cry. It's called charm, it's a work of sorcery which turns the opposite sex into your slave. Didn't Naruto already tell you that you are precious to Tsukune? Stop being pathetic little girl. What's going on? A voice coming from the rosary, Moka cried out a little bit fearful. I am another you, I'm using the rosary as a medium through which to talk to you from deep within your psyche. A dawn of realization came across Moka's face. The succubus is a monster that seduces males. A male who receives a kiss from a succubus is doomed to be her slave for all eternity, inner Moka stated, causing outer Moka to go wide-eyed. We have to go stop her. She yelled out and started running to find Tsukune before it was too late. Minutes later. Moka was running down a hallway trying her best to find Tsukune before the spell was finally placed on him. Moka-chan. She heard someone call her. She turned around and found Naruto walking up to her. Hey Moka-chan, what's the rush? Relief went to her eyes as she saw her friend. Naruto-kun, quick, we have to find Tsukune-kun. She cried out, getting a confused look from the blonde. If we don't, something really bad is going to happen to him. Naruto just scratched his head. Actually, he started getting a look from the girl. I just saw Tsukune. He stated. The girl's eyes widened. Really, where? She cried. I just saw him at the infirmary. He took a tumble down some stairs and got banged up really bad. Naruto said with a sad look. I just saw him 5 minutes ago. Now they're not letting anyone visit him. The nurse says he has to rest. Relief and worry came across the pink-haired vampire's face. At least he would be safe for not. Come on Moka-chan, let's go get some ramen to eat or something. Naruto said. The girl was about to accept his proposal before she saw something in his eyes. Nothing. It was like staring into a soulless person. There was no emotion, no life, nothing. He is already under the girl's spell. Inner Moka stated, quickly, you must get away from him and find Tsukune. She said with urgency. Naruto, I think I am going to go see Tsukune-kun anyways. I'm really worried for him. Moka said, getting a strained smile come from the blonde. But Moka-chan, they're not letting anybody visit right now. Come on Moka-chan, he's probably already asleep. Now let me tell you the history of ancient ramen making. He began trying to put an arm around Moka to lead her away, only for her to move underneath his arm. No. She cried out, I'm going to go see Tsukune-kun. She turned to run the other direction towards the infirmary, only to blink in surprise when she saw the blonde directly in front of her. I'm sorry Moka-chan, Naruto now said, void of any smile or emotion whatsoever. I cannot let you interrupt Kurumu-sama right now for any reason. He went to grab the girl only for her to shove him 3 feet into a nearby wall. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, I'll make it up to you later. Moka yelled as she ran off to go save Tsukune. Naruto lay in the wall, arms twitching sporadically. Why does every girl I associate with have the ability to one way or another kick my ass? Zombie, Naruto thought before digging himself out of the crater in the wall. Hiya. Naruto's lifeless eyes opened. That was Kurumu-sama. I must hurry. He said, using a shushin to make his travel faster. Calm yourself, that attack was too straightforward. Said the calm, mocking voice of a silver-haired vampire landed on the ground in front of a downed succubus. Though you act like a little devil, you're just a naive little girl. She said with a wicked grin. Kurumu just shrank as the vampire came closer to her. I'll make it so you can never walk again. Tears were now forming in the succubus's eyes. Then all of a sudden, a blur appeared in front of the downed girl. I'm sorry Moka-chan. The blonde said with a smile while looking at her with his emotionless eyes. I don't want to fight you, but I won't let any harm come to Kurumu-sama. Finished the teen, taking a fighting stance. Moka narrowed her eyes at the blonde. Naruto, she said sharply, you are under her spell. Snap out of it. Naruto looked at her blankly. I don't know what you are talking about Moka-chan, all I know is that I won't let you lay a hand on Kurumu-sama. He said emotionlessly. Kurumu's eyes widened. What is he doing here? She thought, I told him to stay away from this place. Moka gave an annoying click with her tongue. If you do not move, I will be forced to move you Naruto, she said, her eyes glaring at the teen threateningly. The blonde shrugged. I don't want to fight you Moka-chan, but if you force me to, I will attack you. Stated Naruto, still in his fighting stance. Fine. Moka yelled, but you asked for it Naruto. With that she disappeared from sight only to reappear in front of the blonde, kicking him squarely in the jaw. She felt her foot connect with the blonde's head, but her eyes widened when there was a puff of smoke, and there instead was a log that looked like it had been broken apart. Wires then formed around the vampire, gripping her tightly. She growled as she was swung around by the wire until she felt a kick connect with her own head. Naruto, having substituted with a log and swing the vampire girl around with his ninja wire roundhouse, kicked the crap out of Moka. She was sent flying in a random direction, crashing through a couple trees. Naruto landed with a crouch near Kurumu. Then Naruto-kun. Kurumu whispered, amazed at what had transpired. Tsukune also felt that his jaw had fallen off and was left on the ground. What the hell? The boy thought, I know Naruto is human, but how the heck did he pull that off? He noticed Kurumu started to try and get up. Please stay back Kurumu-sama. Naruto stated calmly, causing the succubus to look at him in confusion. This fight is far from over. Please get away while you can. I will hold her off. he said emotionlessly, causing the girl to feel even more guilty at the way she was controlling the blonde. As if on cue, a flying tree was sent their way. Naruto quickly picked up Kurumu and shoo-shined away in a nearby tree. They could see a calm, tattered silver-haired vampire walking to the crater that she had formed with the succubus moments before. "I thought there was something different with you, Naruto." She started quietly. "I don't know exactly what you did there, but that definitely was something no normal human could do." She shot her eyes up on the branch where Naruto and Kurumu were standing. "What are you?" she asked sharply, leaving no room for question behind. Her curiosity was now overwhelming her. That kick that Naruto had given her didn't hurt much, but there was more power behind that kick than any normal human being should have. What was he? "I am your friend, Moka-chan," came the emotionless reply. "But I will fight you if you continue to go after Kurumu-sama." Anger rose from the vampire. She glared heatedly at the succubus. "How dare you hide behind him like a coward?" she yelled at the other girl. "You claim that my other self is using Tsukune for his blood, you're no better using him as a shield because you are too weak to fight me yourself." Kurumu shivered at the glare the vampire was giving her. But I didn't tell him to come," she said quietly before being interrupted by Naruto. "It's alright, Kurumu-sama. I will protect you with my life," he said, a little emotion coming back to his eyes. Moka narrowed her eyes, getting even angrier at the declaration the blonde had made. "And you, Naruto?" she said bitterly, causing the emotionless boy to gaze at her. "I expected something better from you. Someone of Tsukune's caliber was able to break off this weak, pathetic excuse of a monster's charm, and you can't." She growled before stopping, eyes widening at a thought that crossed her mind. "Unless," she started quietly, "you kissed him, didn't you?" she yelled at the cowering girl behind Naruto. Tsukune now panicked. "But that means he's her slave now forever," he shouted in fear for his friend. Moka was now glaring daggers at the succubus. "Not necessarily," she said, getting Tsukune to quiet down. "Naruto could be this four's slave forever if she wished it to be, but she can relinquish control over him whenever she so desires it. Not many outside of the succubus race know this, because normally Succubi don't have any reason to relinquish control over their victims." Tsukune's eyes widened. "Then that means all we need to do is get her to free Naruto, right?" he asked a scary vampire. She clenched her fists tightly and growled. "Oh, I'm gonna do more than that to her," she spat out venomously. "Release him from your charm now, succubus," she yelled, disappearing from view to reappear behind the girl ready to kick her, only to dodge a shuriken attack from the blonde, causing her to retreat away from the succubus. He then reappeared in front of her and delivered a series of punches and kicks her, only to dodge a shuriken attack from the blonde, causing her to retreat away from the succubus. He then reappeared in front of her and delivered a series of punches and kicks. Moka started dodging and swatting the attacks away with some difficulty before the girl managed to gain her own ground. "Your fighting skills are commendable," she stated with mild excitement. She couldn't help it, it had been ages since anyone of some worth was brought to her for her to release her energy. "I wonder what else you are capable of, human." Not a second later she felt the ground move under her. Not knowing what was going on, she jumped back in time to see a pair of hands come out of the ground to try and grab her feet. Hearing something move behind her, she turned around and saw another blonde try slice her with a giant zanbatsu that he had somehow taken out of the inside of his green suit. She quickly moved mid-air out of the way, causing the blonde to take a swing, miss, and sail past her. The said blonde spun his body in a couple circles before hurling the giant blade at the vampire. Moka's eyes widened again, barely able to move out of the way of the blade, then something caught her eye, another body grabbed the spinning blade and was coming for a finishing blow right above her. With no time to think, she caught the blade with both of her hands before the thing could bifurcate her. "What is going on?" she thought before ripping the blade away from the blonde and kicking him in the face, once again disappearing in a puff of smoke. Her eyes widened as she saw a blue spinning ball come through the smoke on the other end, as well as another blonde coming with it. She glanced at the ball quickly. If it hit her, it wouldn't finish her, but it would hurt like hell, and she did not feel like going through tons of pain today. Grabbing the wrist with the ball, she snapped it while kneeing the boy in the stomach before elbowing him in the back of the head. She felt a kick coming from the back of her head. Grabbing the foot, she broke it until another fist started to race towards her face. "What the hell is he?" she thought as she grabbed the hand and snapped his arm at the elbow, causing the boy to cry in pain. She thought that was the end of it until she saw that he was coming in for a headbutt. He just won't stop. "I need to finish this now or something grave is bound to happen." Grabbing his hair and pulling him to the side, she punched him with a great deal of strength over and over again until the blonde became unresponsive. Tsukune couldn't believe it. Naruto, his best friend, fought like a demon before being nearly beaten to death by the girl who he had a crush on. Moka released a sigh that she was holding, looking at the bloody battered up boy in her hand. She felt guilty for having to go to such an extent, but the blonde would just not go down. He fought like a crazed man with nothing to lose. Her own blood was pumping rapidly and she could feel her adrenaline rushing through her veins. She checked his pulse to make sure he was still alive. A slight relief reached her eyes as she felt that with some medical attention, he should be fine. Admiration and respect filled her eyes as she gently placed the boy on the ground. She had come to respect the boy as she saw him interact with her outer self. He didn't have any arterial motives in being with her. He genuinely just wanted to be friends with her. Sure, Tsukune was nice, but he wanted to be with her. Also, Naruto didn't fear her like Tsukune did. He carried himself with confidence and his eyes had a look of determination she couldn't help but admire. It excited her actually and she was getting used to the feeling. And after the way he just fought now, she had to know what he was. But first, she gave a loathful glare at the girl who had caused this whole ordeal. Kurumu had tears falling down her face. Why would Naruto-kun do that? I only told him to distract Moka, not defend me. She thought before she felt a ton of killing intent being pointed directly at her. She went wide-eyed with fear as she saw Moka get up from beside Naruto and stalk over to her. How dare you, coward? She said with great hate. Using another to protect yourself because you are too weak, the succubus was now shivering with fear as the girl continued towards her. I didn't know. She shouted, I told him to stay away. He wasn't supposed to get involved. She screamed, her heart now almost broken at the betrayal that she caused against the blonde. Moka narrowed her eyes. Well, he did get involved. You tried to kill two people who meant the world to my other self, Succubus. She spat out the word with disgust in her voice. If it was just me, I would just cripple you, but because you made me hurt him I'm going to kill you. She said with a dark voice, nails and fangs elongating from their places. She continued towards the girl until a certain brown-haired teen moved between the two, rosary in his hands. Tsukune, move. She said forcefully. Was this not the woman who not only tried to kill you, but manipulated Naruto as well, putting him in the state he is in now? Moka finished pointing at the bloody blonde that was laying on the ground. Tsukune just smiled. That is enough. I don't believe that Kurumu-san was actually doing this out of purely bad intentions. He said, getting a surprised look out of the succubus. It's just that I can't see Kurumu-san as being bad at heart and I don't think that Naruto would disagree with me either. He said, scratching his chin, grinning. This caused a large blush to appear on Kurumu's face. Just like how the Moka-san is someone we can depend on, right? He finished. Moka glared at the boy. Don't misunderstand, boy. Snapped Moka, grabbing the rosary. I just didn't want your blood to be stolen away from me. I'm definitely different from the other Moka, she said before looking over at the down blonde boy. Take care of him as well. She said quietly, getting a nod from Tsukune before placing the rosary back on her choker, reverting back to the pink-haired bowl of joy. She collapsed in Tsukune's arms asleep while Tsukune just wondered what the heck was going on. He saw Kurumu walk to his side, looking at the ground nervously. I'm terribly sorry for what happened. She blurted out. I never meant for any of this to happen. She looked like she was on the verge of crying. Tsukune just smiled. Don't worry, Kurumu-san, everyone makes mistakes. Surprising the girl. It's what we make of those mistakes that makes us the people that we are today. He said with a grin, causing the girl to blush a deep shade of red. He then looked over at Naruto. Do you mind if you take Naruto to the infirmary? I'm going to bring Moka-san there as well. Kurumu nodded fervently before going to the blonde and looking down on him. She could see his broken and bloody face where inner Moka had unleashed her punches from hell on. She slid her hand down one side of his face. I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun, I promise I will make this up to you. She thought. Suddenly she stopped when she started to hear a low rumble coming from the blonde. She listened closely and noticed that Naruto was actually purring. Kawaii. She thought, saving the blonde's little secret for later. She picked him and with a grunt. Geez, Naruto-kun. You need to lay off the ramen. What? Tsukune cried in surprise. The rosary started talking to you. Moka just nodded at the boy's question. Yay, this time the voice ended up saving us, but it's strange, isn't it? Maybe the seal is weakening. She questioned. Hey, if it comes to the point where the seal doesn't work anymore. Tsukune. You would still like me, right? She asked shyly. Of course I will. Tsukune jumped and exclaimed. Even if you are a little scary, even if you suck my blood. To me, Moka-san, is Moka-san. Then he thought about another of his friends. And I am sure that Naruto would feel the same way too. Moka just sadly smiled at that. She felt extremely guilty for what had happened to the blonde the day before. It was her fault that he was in the infirmary with all of those injuries. The nurse said that it would be lucky if Naruto could recover a full 100% in 6 months. Good morning. Shouted another voice, causing both of the teens to jump and turn around. Moka narrowed her eyes at the culprit. Hiya. Kurumu-chan. She cried angrily, what do you want now? Still angry at the succubus. Said girl just smiled at Tsukune. Tsukune-kun, I baked some cookies, would you eat them with me? Getting a confused look from both of them. Huh? Tsukune asked intelligently, why me? The succubus just blushed and placed a hand on one side of her face. Oh, remember when I said I was searching for my life's one and only destined one? I've decided it's Tsukune. Getting a shocked face coming from said boy. I remember what my mother once had told me about how she met her destined one. All of her charms or techniques never worked on him when she first met him. So she decided to try and see if she could make him fall in love with her naturally. That's how she knew he was her destined one. And all of my advances towards you Tsukune, they didn't work. No matter how much I tried, you just wouldn't be mine. So I've finally found my destined one. Oh Tsukune, now I've totally fallen for you. She said with hearts in her eyes. Until they met Moka's who was giving her a death glare which she gladly returned. Kurumu didn't see what was so bad. Her mom found her destined one this way, she needed to find her destined one as well. She had been searching for so long. She never really knew how she was going to go about and do it, but then this happened. The same situation that happened with her mother as well. She just had to make Tsukune hers. Tsukune just blanched. Hey girls. He stuttered at the girls who still had lightning going between the both of them. How about we go visit Naruto? The girls stopped glaring at each other when they heard the blonde's name and looked at Tsukune. There's a good chance that he might be awake now. I think that he could us the company. He said, both girls getting sad looks on their faces, but both nodded regardless. At the infirmary. What do you mean he's not here? Shouted all three teens at a very confused nurse who just smiled sheepishly. Well I don't know. She said, with his injuries, he shouldn't have been able to get out of bed for at least 3 weeks. So I left for a couple of hours to get lunch, and when I got back, he was no longer here. She finished smiling while sticking her tongue out of her mouth. Getting an eye tick from all three teens, they left the infirmary grumbling about how women like her gave nurses a bimbo name. Walking down the hall Tsukune asked, where could he have gone off to then? He looked like he was really hurt. Getting a wince from both of the girls next to him. They were about so split up to look for him when they heard a strange conversation passing a nearby door. And did you know that a ramen museum opened in Yokohama in 1994? That's why ramen is so great. Shouted a familiar voice to the three. Really now? Said a seductive feminine voice, you are just too cute. How is it you don't have a girlfriend already? Causing two teens outside the door to become wide-eyed while the male just raised an eyebrow. The teens pushed open a door to see a bandaged Naruto being fed ramen from a bowl from a rather attractive green-haired female. Don't worry, she said seductively, let Aiko-chan take care of you especially with you injuries. Causing the blonde to grin innocently. As long as the ramen keeps coming, you can help me all day. He grinned. This cooking class is the best thing that has ever been created Databeo. He said before widening his eyes slapping his hands to his face, incidentally hitting himself with his casts that were on both arms. The girl just grinned at the boy and with a predatory smirk as she glumped the poor boy. Kawaii. You have a verbal tick that is so cute. She stopped when she felt a small amount of killing intent from behind her. Looking back she saw a couple of demons with glowing eyes and blue and pink hair staring at her. Naruto got out of the girl's grasp and looked up at the two glaring girls. Oh hey guys. He said with a grin. Weirdest thing happened to me today when I woke up. Causing the girls to snap out of their demonic modes. When I woke up I was in the infirmary with all of these bandages and casts on. What happened? He asked getting a guilty look from both of the girls, did I fall off of a large cliff again? Again? They all thought. Anyways, I got way hungry, then I remembered that if we pay, the cooking class or club will make whatever food I want, so I came here and Aiko-chan here where'd she go? He asked looking all around for the girl. The others hadn't even noticed that she was gone either and were puzzled about where the green-haired girl had gone. That's weird. Said the blonde while on the inside thinking, that's not good. I'm getting rusty if I couldn't sense her leave from 3 feet away from me. Breaking out of his thought process he looked at his friends again. So guys, what's up? Kurumu looked at Naruto and her eyes started to tear up before she launched herself at him. Naruto-kun I'm so sorry. Wah. She started crying into the confused blonde's chest. Naruto not really knowing what was happening just patted her back confused until the girl calmed herself down. She then proceeded to tell the blonde all that had happened up until the point where she brought him to the infirmary. And I can understand if you never wanted to see me again Naruto-kun, but I want you to know I am so sorry. She said still with tears in her eyes. Naruto was silent for a while thinking about what she had said. Naruto. Said a shy pink-haired girl. I too am sorry about what had happened. If it wasn't for my inner demon, then this wouldn't have happened either. Please forgive me. She shouted bowing to the blonde in apology. The blonde remained quiet before turning around and taking out a scroll. The 3 teens looked over Naruto's shoulder to see what he was doing. He unrolled it taking up a space of 3 extra seat spaces before making a hand sign. Hi. he said before 3 more bowls of hot steaming ramen were produced with a pair of chopsticks. He then started eating his own ramen and looked back when he noticed that no one had really moved. What? He asked blankly with a noodle hanging from his mouth. The 3-teen looked at the blonde in confusion. Naruto? Asked Tsukune, what are you doing? The blonde raised an eyebrow. What does it look like I'm doing? He asked as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. I'm giving you guys some of my ramen. The teens just stared at Naruto like he was crazy. Naruto sighed, fine. Then as your guys' punishment for something that happened that I have no idea what happened, you have to eat ramen with me. He said with an angry scowl. The 3 teens blinked. That's it, Kurumu asked. Do you not want me to forgive you? The blonde asked with a raised eyebrow. Well no I do, but what I did was horrible to you. How can you forgive me just like that? She cried out. Naruto just smiled. Easy, just like this. And then he put a large mouthful of ramen in her mouth with his chopstick, causing the girl jump back in surprise, almost choking on the ramen. Oi. That's grade A ramen right there, don't waste it. He shouted at the girl. Now get over here and eat this gift from Kami before it gets cold. He said, causing the other teens just to smile warmly at him as they sat down. They ended up talking for a while about mundane things. A couple times they asked the blonde how he was able to do some of the things that he did, or if he really was a human, but the boy only winked, said he was a human, the most sexy baddest human on the face of the planet, and replied trade secret whenever they asked about his abilities. After a while they started to leave the cooking classroom to their other classes. So how come I don't remember anything that happened though when Tsukune can? Naruto questioned the succubus who was now happily eating his bowl of ramen. That's cause I used a more advanced version of my charm on you. I didn't want you to think any less of me and remember what I was trying to have you do. She said still nervously, afraid that the blonde was going to be angry with her. You're really the first friend that I have ever had and I really didn't want to ruin our friendship. Naruto just smiled at that. Don't worry Kurumu, we'll always be friends no matter what, okay? He said happily to her, getting the girl to give him a beautiful smile of her own. As for Tsukune, the reason why he wasn't affected by me charms is because he is my destined one. She chirped with a smile. In the back they hear a pink-haired girl shout out, no he isn't. Ignoring the girl, Kurumu started to explain to Naruto about Succubi and their destined ones. So Tsukune is your destined one you call it? Naruto asked a smiling Kurumu who was in the process of shoving Tsukune in her bountiful bosom. Yep. She chirped, I've completely fallen for him, just like he's falling for me right now. That might be due to the lack of oxygen, thought Naruto. Get your hands off my Tsukune-kun, shouted Moka as she shoved her off of him before saying, Kapuchu. And started to suck his blood. Naruto just looked at the scene fondly, thinking of the friends of his past. Then a feeling came up that he was able to ignore since coming to the academy, loneliness. They really didn't need him there intruding on their time. But he would be there regardless, in case they ever needed his help. It wasn't like he had anything really better to do. Naruto just sighed, I'll see you later guys, Naruto said, gaining the attention of the other teens. I'll come by after classes or something, he said in a forced voice before heading off in a random direction. The teens just looked at each other in confusion. Is Naruto-kun okay? They all thought at the same time. Naruto-kun. Why can't I get my mind off of him? Kurumu thought, going her own way to her classes. I can't have these feelings for him. Mama found her destined one this way, Tsukune has to be mine. She continued, confused. Then why do I feel like there still is something that I am missing? Naruto-kun thought, a pink-haired vampire. You look so sad. I promise I will make all this up to you, she finished with resolve in her eyes. All 3 friends separated, worried and thinking about the blonde enigma that had entered into their lives. Elsewhere. So that's the famous Naruto Uzumaki, huh? The green-haired girl from earlier thought to herself as she watched the blonde take off in his own direction. He would make a fine addition to the clan. He hides it well, but anyone fighting that well under hypnosis has got to be powerful. Turning her eyes downward towards the blonde's booty, plus. There's always the perks as well. She grinned evilly, licking her lips before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.